So first of all, Jessica, congratulations on Holler. It's such a lovely performance and such a compelling film.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I heard that when Nicole first met you, she said that this is going to be one of the most challenging jobs ever, and she would ask you to do things that you've never done before. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is very correct. And she was true to her word. It was challenging, probably more than even Nicole had bargained for, because we did actually film the first 2 weeks of the shooting was during the polar vortex that was in America last January. And, that obviously was very unforeseen. There was just constant things along the way. We shot on film, which is quite unique nowadays. And, you have like maximum 3 takes for any scene. But, I was prepared for it. And it actually helped me with the mindset of Ruth. And I think that a lot of the other actors would agree with that. We were playing these characters in this world where you have to survive every single day and they don't know what's going to be thrown at them. And it gave us a real kind of like do or die mentality, which is definitely appropriate for the movie.
I did hear, hats off to you guys, because I did hear it was a pretty physical shoot, filming in the polar vortex during a blizzard.
Yeah, it was really, really cold. But I would say that by the end of the first 2 weeks, when it started to thaw out a little, we did definitely look around at each other and we were like, oh wow, like this is what you can actually survive. Of course, like we had warm food and we had warm drinks and we were kept warm in between takes. And it was a really great lesson in what you can do when you really push yourself and you really concentrate and you believe in the material, which is so important when you're making an indie movie.
Nicole draws a lot from her own experience for this. What was the conversation like with her that really helped inform your character and get into the mindset of Ruth?
There are a lot of differences, which are Nicole's story to tell. But it's not completely her life, but it's the movie is filmed and set where she grew up. And we knew that. Um, it was really one of those situations that I feel that you have a lot when I'm working with directors who are also women. A lot of your conversations around character and around the emotional beats in a script, a lot can be unsaid and you just understand it. And of course, like, that's not to say that I don't have those male directors, but it's just in a different way. I think when I'm working with a female director, you just kind of benefit from this connection where you don't have long conversations. It's not like, oh, well, this happened to me and do you understand this and do you understand this beat? Like, you just get it. I can't explain it. It's just like a purely like woman to woman thing. Like, you just understand things with each other, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It definitely makes sense. It's a very real story, though. This is about hardship and how people get through it. So I was wondering, do you draw any parallels between your own life and that of Ruth? Anything you could personally relate to?
From the first time that I read the script, the reason that I wanted to do it, and what I could relate to was the feeling that some of us have when you're from a small place and especially if you're from a working class background, that feeling that happens somewhere in childhood or when you're a teenager, or it can happen at any point in your life. But for me, it was around the same time as Ruth. Just kind of looking around at where I live and, really loving my family. And I have brothers, the same as Ruth. And, I love my brothers and I respect them and I love the people that I grew up with and I love the town that I grew up in. But I just looked around one day and I was like, I want to do something more than this. I want to go to different countries and I want to meet different people and speak different languages and eat different types of food. And I just want to see more than this and have a shot at achieving something more than I've seen anybody else achieve, which sounds wonderful and inspiring, but it's actually a really paralyzing feeling. And the anger that you feel at yourself and the confusion of why can't I just be the same as everyone else? Does this mean that I don't respect everybody else? And this really private journey that you go on to try and better yourself. And I guess just the anger that Ruth had at herself and the confusion was what I related to. And the discovery that you have choices, which is something that isn't instilled in people from a working class background. You know, it's not ever really said to you, you have a choice, you can say yes or no to things, and that's your steering wheel in life. It's something that I definitely have had to figure out through trial and error. And you see Ruth realize that at the end of the movie. But, you know, it's a completely different journey for people from a working class background, understanding that they choose what they want in life.
And I know you definitely went all out in order to fully prepare for this role, including really spending some time at a scrapyard.
Yeah. I finally put in an honest day's work in my life. I really loved that day. You know, the scrapyard that we went to work on for the day is the one that's in the movie. It's a real scrapyard. We worked with a guy called Joe, who was this really lovely man from Ohio. I think Nicole knew him when she was younger. And his colleague KJ, who was just this absolute force of nature woman, the most spirited person that I think that I've ever met. And, you know, these two people from Jackson, Ohio gave us a crash course in how to work in a scrapyard. And we actually received real orders from people, and we went through the cans and we worked the baler. And I really enjoyed it. I like tasks that have a beginning and an end, much like making a movie. So yeah, I loved it, and I loved my conversations with Joe and KJ. They definitely gave us a lot of background to the area and things that you would have to spend weeks learning if you just weren't with them, you know? I love that day. I did get really dirty though. Like, there was a lot of like garbage juice, you know, like a lot of residue beer. And I remember I was like so stupid because like obviously I'm an actress and I'm like, oh yeah, going on location, it's gonna be cold. So I bought this really cute kind of like black puffer jacket from this store in London that I love. And I was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna spend a bit more money so I'm warm. And it was like really cute, and you could tie it around the middle kind of tight. And then after the first hour of wearing it in the scrapyard, I was like covered in beer, and I was like, oh, like, well, hopefully I can wipe it down. I don't know.
I also heard that you spent all day roller skating and you kind of had a blast doing that.
Whenever people have asked me, you know, what was the most physical day, because it seems like it's a very physical movie, and it was. But actually the hardest day physically was the roller rink day, because I just was so excited. It was definitely a different scene for me to play as Ruth and for the movie. If you watch the film, you know, she's wearing a bit of makeup and she looks kind of cute. And it's a fun evening out, you know, they're all having a good time. And I just was so excited. I truly felt like Ruth. I was like, oh, wow, like I'm a girl and I'm just going to go and do girl things. And we were warm because we were inside, which was such a novelty at this point on the shoot. And I was like, oh yeah, like I love rollerblading. This is my favorite thing. So we were there we were doing a night shoot. I think we wrapped at 3 a.m. And, you know, we got there at 5 p.m. and I rollerbladed the entire time. Something about me just took on the form of a child. And in between takes, eventually people were like, Jess, like come and sit down. Like, you're going to be so tired. You know, you got to save your energy. And I was like, no, I'm just having the best time. And then eventually I scorpioned into the side of the roller rink. I got a bit, you know, I had too higher expectations for my ability. And I was trying to do this thing where like they go really low. Like I've seen it in pictures and they're like really low and like their legs are going out. And I was like, look, I can do it. And then, you know, obviously I like ate the ground and my legs like scorpioned over the back of me. But that was fine. But the next day I just was like so hungry from just like the permanent rollerblading.
Sounds like you had a lot of fun. I heard that you and Gus had this very interesting bonding experience at an Airbnb.
Yeah, so we actually entered a horror movie for the first evening in our lives that we ever met each other. We never met each other before. And, you know, obviously Nicole did the right thing. She just completely threw us in at the deep end and was like, okay, so you're going to live here for 7 days. And we were like, okay, we're in the middle of nowhere. And Gus is from New York. And I had been living in London for 10 years. So, you know, we didn't know what we were doing on this farm. And then we were like, okay, so like, let's assign bedrooms. So we opened one of the doors and it was fully like, and we were like, wait. And then we like closed the door really quickly and we were like, oh my God, like it's full of China dolls. And we were like, okay, we just have to. The whole thing was like a horror movie. We were in the middle of nowhere. Like no one in our families really knew where we were. So we collected all the China dolls and just really politely put them into a closet and closed the door and spoke to them saying that we respected them and we loved them, but we just didn't ever want to see them again.
So I have to say that that sounds like a pretty cool story.
It was a lot. And also Gus is incredible at the piano. So one night we went in there and started playing the Exorcist theme tune just to really freak ourselves out.
No way. That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. Blaze has been Ruth's biggest champion throughout the movie when we see that. So who's that person in your life?
Oh, I have so many people. I'm so lucky. I mean, my agents obviously are my biggest champions. I've been with my English agents since I was 15. So, you know, that's a long journey. And obviously my family and, you know, my mum is, not the same as in this movie. My mum is amazing and has just always been, you know, I was saying that like I'm from a small place and have a working class background, and my mum from around the time of being like 11 or 12 was just straight up like, if you want to do something different with your life, start doing it now. And you know, she's supported me the whole time. And I don't know, like all the courage that I have to do this job and to carry on, definitely, it's my mom. You know, everybody has that, but you know,
Yeah.
it's definitely my mom.
That's amazing. And lastly, you've been giving these excellent performances and coming of age stories and fleshing out
Thank
these
you.
characters. Are these the kinds of scripts and roles you're going after?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, what I'm always trying to find is something that in a story or a character that is exploring what it means to be a human, which sounds like the most like whimsical actor answer ever, but it truly is what interests me in my life. If I wasn't an actress, I think I would want to be, I don't know, like a therapist or a counselor. I'm just really interested in people and the relationships that we have and the histories that we have and how we get to each point in our life. And I'm just trying to do that with my work, you know, whether or not it's something that I relate to or something that I think other people will relate to. I like things that are mostly very simple, but are just exploring the complete bizarreness of being a person, which is like crazy for everyone. And I'm trying to represent real people on screen that will inspire people or comfort them. Um, that's what I've been doing so far. Whether or not that changes as I get older, I hope that I'm lucky enough to experience that change as I get older, because it's never guaranteed. But I'm just trying to play people, literally just people. And it's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah. And lastly, what's next for you?
I have a movie that was in TIFF last year coming out called Jungleland, which is kind of in the same world as this movie. It's a working class story about two brothers. You know, the sibling relationship means a lot to me. So I had that coming out in November. And I had another movie called Pink Skies Ahead that Kelly Oxford, she directed and wrote. There was supposed to be a South by with this movie, but I think that's playing at a festival later in the year. And then before the pandemic, I was about to shoot a Netflix series. Um, it's not the end of the world.
I was gonna say.
It's a different series. I'm really excited about it. They didn't announce me as a cast member in the show yet, so we'll just have to wait until they do that. But we're still going ahead with it, and it's a dream role for me. It's loosely based on, I mean, it's not really based on, but my character is a version of a real life person that is very notorious in history um as a woman. Like, she's a very well-known character, and that's what the character kind of draws on.
Oh, I can't wait. You've given me a few clues, but I can't wait. So hopefully get to talk to you about that soon. But it was so lovely talking to you today. Thank you so much for your time. I'm wishing you all the best for this festival and for the rest of your films.
Thank you so much, and thank you for watching the movie.